I hear that. I hear that territorial disputing. Yeah, I can make that happen. Give it a delay between the first counterclick to the counter left. Give us that. Just go ahead and do it. But one, give us that. Then do another. To actual air. There you go. The reason we do that is it can trip the circuit breaker. No, just there's a whole bunch of circuits.
Oh my
Oh yeah. Yeah. What that thing right there? It's just someone whenever they first walked in the first day of school, back when I was putting the room back together, they left it there. I was like, whatever, just put it there.
It looks like a fireplace.
It is. There's usually fireplaces in every room. Oh, we'll talk about fireplaces, don't you worry. One of the things we're going to do, guys, we're going to take a tour of Red's. That'll happen. One like you probably haven't done before. We're going to go over all the architecture and construction. We're not going to the tower, but we're going to the fourth floor yet. I'm not 100% certain when, but it's not too long, like maybe a couple of weeks. But that's going to happen. And we'll talk about the fireplace. I kind of want to wait for like the weather to get a little bit better because we do go outside for part of it. So if it's like raining or something here. Yeah, not right now. Just wait a second. We'll talk about it. In the meantime, let's talk construction for just a second. I like this picture to begin with. You guys see what's going on here? They're building Eiffel Tower, yeah. What?
Yeah.
Right. The Eiffel Tower is a pretty interesting bit of architecture. For one thing, it was pretty much universally reviled in France. There was one guy, I forget his name, who said, he was an artist though, he said that the thing was so hideous, he was going to eat lunch underneath it every single day because it was the only place in Paris he didn't have to look at.
Under the Eiffel Tower?
Yes. Yeah, the whole idea is that it was hideous. That's what I'm trying to get across. Yeah, no. If you've ever been there, no. But I will say this about it too. It actually is an engineering marvel. For one thing, it actually has hydraulics that keep it perfectly level. Plumb is actually the word we should be using rather than level. But keeps it perfectly straight. And it was the first real skyscraper. One of the things we're going to understand with the rebuilding of cities is whenever the European cities, for the most part, were built, they started off as a simple fortification, a fortress, essentially, that had homes around it. So that whenever an army attacked, the people working the farms could rush into the castle or fort or whatever and be defended against whoever was attacking. So that meant people were just kind of building homes wherever they felt like it, so they were kind of all over the place. And as the city grew bigger and bigger and bigger, those streets were really messed up, and they still are in many cities, you know. But as the population increases in these cities, we're going to need new housing. One of the biggest problems is the strain on infrastructure that occurred because of the second agricultural revolution. People are forced to leave their farms and come to cities looking for work, and when they get there, there's no houses for them. There's no apartments to rent. There's nothing. So they have to kind of live like homeless, build homes wherever they can. So what happened is a lot of cities started undergoing rebuilding, a process called urban renewal. And this process is going to involve all kinds of things needed for more people to live in a city. We call that infrastructure. So we need to build houses. We need to build new sewer systems. We need to build more hospitals, all this kind of stuff, things to take care of people. And indeed, health is going to be a principal concern during this time because people are working harder than ever in cramped conditions, polluted conditions, no less, and having all kinds of health problems because of it. Diseases are always on the rise when you have more people in a smart area. There's a cholera epidemic that strikes London in the 1800s. And so there's going to be a lot of changes going on. But the other thing we see is medical technology is equal to the task. Medicine is actually going to be on the rise, and we're going to have some new technologies developed. But understand, this ultimately is about cities. Here's the first thing: germ theory, urban renewal, digitalized society, standard living. Starting at the bottom for standard of living. What do you think I mean when I say standard of living? Sorry?
Everyday life.
Everyday life, okay. Any other thoughts? So let me put it this way. What do you think about someone if I say, well, they have a high standard of living?
They've got like good stuff, like they're rich.
They're rich, okay, sure. Yeah. Basically, standard of living means access to comforts, things that make life nice. They have a new, they have a nice house. That's all standard of living. Medicine, they have good health care. We use this as a way of judging an overall economy as it applies to the average person. You see, one of the things we have to understand about early industrialization is that, generally speaking, the average person's life isn't really affected that much. It's no better than it was before. In some ways, it could be considered worse. But ultimately, their life doesn't really improve that much. However, over time, once a country has industrialized, standard of living tends to go up. Basically, the money that is being produced within an economy starts going to these people at the bottom. Now, there's a reason for that. It has to do with supply and demand. In early industrialization, first industrializing the country, there is a lot of supply in terms of workers. You can also look at it from this standpoint. There's a very high demand for jobs. A lot of people want jobs. And so that means that businesses can essentially have to take whoever they want. You know, people have to work, they have to eat, they have to live. So businesses can hire people for next to nothing. They can not pay very high wages. They can just replace people. You know, there's so much demand that's like, if you get hurt, and I'll kick you out and fire you, and I'll hire you over there. You want a job. You know, so this is one of the ways this affects. However, as time goes on, more and more businesses are competing with each other. There's more businesses, there's more jobs, things start to level out. Suddenly, if I want the best workers as a factory owner, I can't just dismiss people. I've got to actively court you. It's like, okay, you're really good at your job, I'll tell you what. How about I give you a good salary? How about I give you a company car? You know, maybe I'll pay for a nice apartment for you. And things like that. I don't know, whatever. You know, we'll work something out. You want a flex spending account? Sure, why not? 401k? Work that out. Suddenly, your standard of living has gone up because you are a vital resource. Yes, you're skilled labor. Okay, something to be desired. So what we see happening is certain jobs which require basically less amount of work, less know-how, less training, get paid less. They get paid the same as their rivals. But those who are necessary, who require special training, special education, if you will, well, now I'm going to pay you more because I want you. I need you. I need you for my job. So I'm going to pay you more. You're a more valuable resource. Yes? Does this sound familiar to you guys? Getting an education, seeing a better job? That's where that comes from. However, even what we call unskilled labor still is being paid more because as we compete for the best people, if I want the best workers, I've got to pay the most or provide the most incentives. Payment isn't necessarily just a paycheck. There's all kinds of other benefits that are a form of pay. Well, yeah, health insurance, sure. That's an example, absolutely. So are retirement benefits. So are vacation days. I mean, there's any number of different things that can work out. You know, even silly things like, well, I'll give you a discount. You know, don't be surprised about discounts, because that tends to be some people's minds when they go about, you know, finding a place of employment. So these are all incentives for you to work for me. This is competition. So what we see happening as a general rule across the board is later on, after we have industrialization, eventually the standard of living goes up. However, this of course varies, as most capitalist societies tend to go through ebbs and flows. The United States, for instance, every 30 years we go through a cycle. The first part of it's a boom. Things are doing great. It's a great economy. Everybody's got more than enough money for the most part. You know, there's still poor people, but you have, for the most part, people have more money than they did. They can buy stuff that maybe they don't really need, but they want. You know, then there's a crash. Things go down. Not so good. Everyone's kind of struggling. It's hard. Over a 10-year period, things start getting better, and then we enter a 10-year period of recovery. Does this sound familiar? Because we're going through recovery right now. Basically, 2000 hits, we have 9/11, bam, the economy tanks. We are spending about the next or so, 7 years or so, 6 years, whatever, building back up. So by the time you guys are graduating from college, we should be in a bit, which is good. That's where we want to be, you know. But this has always happened, as long as the United States has been a country. This is how most industrial countries work. They don't boom something. So standard of living, useful tool for measuring how well people are doing for the most part. Germ theory. What do you think that means? What about germs? What do germs do? Make you sick. Yeah, that's germ theory. They're these little tiny organisms that make you sick. Why is it a theory? Yeah, what isn't everything in science that you prove it? Theory, sure. There's this theory that's been around for a while that there's little microscopic organisms that cause sickness. Okay? Louis Pasteur is going to prove this. Louis Pasteur. How is he going to do so? Well, he develops a few processes. One that bears his name is pasteurization. Do you guys know what is pasteurization? It can, yes. Yeah, well, actually it has the opposite effect. Pasteurization is basically where you heat something. You cook it, kind of. You heat it up to the point where you kill all the bacteria in it. Milk, which, by the way, who drinks milk for the most part? What do you think of? I don't mean like you personally, I mean what age group? Kids, right? Babies. There's nothing wrong with that. I would say milk does the body good, you know. But back to the original point. Here, boom. Children, for the most part, they can drink milk. And which group of people are most susceptible to disease? Children. So here's the problem. Milk-borne pathogens kill children. This is bad. We don't want this to happen. And so Louis Pasteur puts this process of heat killing germs. Okay, let's do that to milk. Here's the problem. Some of these bacteria actually cause it to last longer. So when you pasteurize milk, it makes it go bad faster. In fact, we can actually ultra-pasteurize things. Look out. Ultra-pasteurize. It's so much so that it actually kills the lactose, brings it down.
which is good if you're lactose intolerant. But let me ask you a question. How long does milk last in the refrigerator? Not quite a month, a few weeks. I mean, it depends. From factory, yeah, it can be long. If you look at ultra-pasteurized milk, you have 7 days. It's like a time bomb. My wife's lactose intolerant, so I know this. You pull it's literally, you pull like this little ring cord out of it, and as soon as it's like pulling a hand grenade, you get that sucker's going bad in 7 days.
So, is it true that like if you drink too much milk, you can literally build lactose intolerance?
That's news to me.
I don't know, a bunch of people told me that. I mean, I hate milk, so I don't really care.
I don't think that that's what causes lactose intolerance. I mean, lactose intolerance is an allergy.
Yeah.
So, if anything, I would say having lots of it would actually make you immune to its effects. But I do not know, so don't trust my word on this. That'd be a question for a doctor. By the way, Newcastle also creates a vaccine for anthrax and rabies, which is kind of a big deal because rabies kills you. Anthrax is a disease that's mostly held by farm animals, but it can hurt humans. Again, big killers in the world, you know, we can get rid of them. That's one of the things you have to understand. We're constantly getting rid of diseases. Like that's the thing is that we all know that it's possible to get rid of diseases. Just think about it for a second. A lot of the times, diseases were part of the world. You know, do you guys know how everybody began letters in the 19th century? How's your health? Seems like a weird thing to ask, but your health is the most important thing to you. Diseases were just there. You know, we can't cure all diseases; they just are. Nowadays, we can, or at least we know we can possibly. We're constantly working to do so, and that's something that is amazing when you get right down to it. It's a world we know we can control. We just haven't discovered how to do it yet. Or it might be just expensive. That's all because of germ theory being proved true. That moment cannot be overstated. Another important contributor to health in this era is Florence Nightingale. I presume you guys have heard of her, yes? Her contribution comes down to cleanliness. You guys ever been in a hospital and it's like, man, it smells like disinfectant? You know what I mean? The best way I can describe it is it just smells white. Like everything is white in hospitals. You notice that?
I think it's so nasty. I hate the hospital.
What's that?
Why does nursing homes smell bad?
Well, think about what you do with the nursing home. It's where you go to die. There's a reason they call it death's waiting room. Yeah. True. And I take your point from much of history, guys. That's what hospitals were. You went there to die. You didn't get better in hospitals. You just die slowly. Or quicker. But my point with this is that this is when this changes. Yes? This is when these things change. Because suddenly, hospitals can make you better. Now let's look at the number one killer in hospitals in the 19th century. The number one killer is infection. Okay? Infection. Florence Nightingale was a young nobleman who wanted to be part of something better. She wanted to make something for herself. So she wanted to be a nurse during the Crimean War. We talked about this. The Crimean War saw huge numbers of casualties. And despite the fact her family was against her going, she ended up going and becoming a nurse. And when she got there, she saw just horrible conditions. The soldiers were lying in basically pools of mud, or dirty sheets if they were in beds. They weren't changed very frequently. Their bandages weren't changed very frequently. They're falling off and things like that. The food was really bad quality. And so when she gets to this hospital, the first thing she does is she orders all the under nurses to clean. Stop what you're doing, clean. And she faced a lot of opposition, like, why does it matter? It doesn't matter how nice it is, they're going to die. Just make them comfortable. She said, we're making it clean. Then she institutes, we're changing bedding every day. We are changing bandages multiple times a day. We're making certain these guys have enough nutrition, getting them good food, those types of things. After a few months of this, a general paid her hospital a visit, was asking about the casualties. Now, it wasn't uncommon for a hospital to lose like 100, 130 guys a day. So how many folks did you lose last week? We lost 7. The general asked her, like, well, how many people did you lose last week? She's like, I got 7 in a week. Yeah. It was like, what? How is this possible? People are getting better? Her methods were introduced across the board. I have no idea what's going on. This is madness. That's this was one of those things that it proved this idea that, if we keep things clean, we have less chance of infection. Take on the next effect with Joseph Lister. He was a physician who used anesthetics in all of his surgeries. He anesthesized his tools. You guys know what I'm talking about what anesthetic is? Anesthetic. Excuse me, not anesthetic. An anesthetic is basically something that kills bacteria and all this stuff on tools and in bodies. Like, for instance, like hydrogen peroxide. Yeah.
So did he make Listerine?
I think it's named after him. So good. Anyways, I don't know for 100% so. It would not surprise me though. But yeah, they prevent infection. Infection is the #1 killer. You get rid of that, suddenly people are surviving things. Whoa. The potential for health is just exponentially growing. This is what's responsible more than anything else of the population boom during the 19th century. The population grows by 70 million, and this, by the way, is with the Irish potato famine, where 1 million people died. You know what I'm saying? Is that the potential for the betterment of human health is just exponential during this era. Suddenly, we find ourselves in a situation where people are surviving. That's Louis Pasteur. He's a guy. He's got a fantastic beard, He looks like a scientist. You know what I mean? So people who look like scientists or whatever, he looks like, oh yeah, you're a scientist. And that would be, Morris Nightingale. You guys know the seriousness of all these photographs. You guys know why they do that? Why it's so serious? Why are they smiling and having a grand old time? Basically, it took longer exposure. It's easier to hold a face like this than it is to be like smile and things like that. Otherwise, if you start moving, it looks all weird and blurry. It's long and the short of it. So, we talked about exploratory surgery, we talked about Pasteur, we talked about sanitation, all these great things. Another thing that starts to change the world during this era is more and more people are getting the right to vote. By the late 1800s, universal manhood suffrage is realized throughout Europe, for the most part. Universal manhood suffrage, what does that mean? I mean, you can figure it out. What's universal mean? What? Yeah, all manhood, and what's suffrage? The right to vote. So, universal manhood suffrage, all men can vote. What about women? No. 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 Why not? Why shouldn't women have the right to vote? Yeah, that's one of the requirements. In fact, it was used to keep African Americans from voting in the United States. Illegally, I might add, but it is. You guys know why they said women shouldn't vote? Women are mentally inferior to men. They can't understand complex things like politics. They're just little women, you know? Just let them have their little games. There is very much a pedantic view towards women. Women are seen as weak, as frail, as over-emotional, as basically incapable of supporting themselves. They need a strong man to take care of them. That being said, interestingly enough, women are seen as the more morally pure. That men are basically warriors. They're beasts, you know. They need a woman to kind of calm them out and chill them out. Also, women are prettier than men. Women need to dress up their guys. You know, does some of this stuff still sound like it's around? Yeah. There are people who still believe like this.
My dad just
It's fascinating to see how many people still believe some of these stereotypes. You know, and it's crazy when you get right down to it. But women are going to have a fight on their hands to try to get the right to vote. And it's not like it starts like, oh, we just figured it out in 20. No. It goes back centuries. We've been talking about this since before the French Revolution. In the United States, Abigail Adams, let's talk about, we should do this. You know, we're going to create a new land where everybody can vote. And the guy's like, yeah, it's up to you. Not for you. Or anybody there's actually a Family Guy thing that's funny about that. Everybody's going to have the right to vote, except for Irish, and blacks, and Italians, and Jews. Basically, anyone who's not a white man. That's also Protestant. I mean, this is how it was. It's no joke. It's going to be a fight. And I'm not just talking like, oh, they're going to hold signs and wave them and be upset. No. I'm talking like brawls. Brawls went down. There was one lady who went in the United States with a hatchet and would like bust out windows and things of businesses and things like that, trying to protest, you know, for the right to vote. Of course, she herself was macheted to death by an angry business owner. But this is not like, you know, tame little women who are just upset and they're going to look pretty with mascara while they're no. They're putting the smack down. They're going to fight and they're going to go to prison and they're going to be tortured to try to gain this right. Which, by the way, most people in the country don't use. Most people don't bother. Think about the last presidential election. You guys, of course, know that on the off year, basically the year where there's an election but there's no president, there's the lowest turnout of it ever. But let's talk about when there's the most turnout, the most voters, right? Let's talk about the last presidential election. What percentage of people voted? Around 46%. Less than half. Why? My vote doesn't matter. I'm just one person. Okay, but 50%, more than 50% of the entire country is saying that. I don't know anything about the election. The internet. We have more information at our disposal than any time in history. Someone can't be bothered to take 10 minutes to go research the facts. How lazy is that? I don't have the time. Polls are open all day. Some polls offer snacks. I'm not kidding. The place I vote, they have snacks. I'm so excited about that. I'm like, I get to go vote, and I get Doritos. How amazing is that? USA, You bet. It's amazing. Not only am I saying what I want other people to listen to, but I'm getting fatter in the process. Life is great. That's the American dream, right there. Guys, I know you can't now, but when you can, vote. It's the only political process that'll change. All right, 1909, 8-hour workday, British miners. This is a watershed event. Consider this. You work on a farm, yes? No, of course not. We're students. But if you did, your workday would look like this. You get up, you start working. You work until you go to bed. Repeat forever until you die. Hmm? You can work like it. There's not much time to sit around. You're constantly moving, constantly doing. It's just how it is. Translate that into an industrial lifestyle. You wake up, you go to the factory, you work until you go home, you go to bed. Yeah, you have time for one meal, maybe. I'm not just going to make you work while you're working on your machine. I mean, you might work on your machine. Obviously, you're working there. British miners are like, too much. We're going to work for 8 hours. And they get it passed. Because, oh yeah, they just got the right to vote. So now their vote matters. This is the thing that people fundamentally misunderstand about the American system. People say, politicians just do whatever they want. That is crap. No, they don't. They do whatever it is to get elected. Consider this. If somebody goes from Kentucky and wants a lot of stuff produced, a lot of money to go to Fort Knox, Kentucky, are they going to get voted in? Probably. Fort Knox employs a lot of people. A lot of people have jobs with Fort Knox. What about every other state in the entire country? That's just pork. That's just added stuff we don't need. You don't need that much money. We don't need the stuff that the military wants to produce. What about the bridges being built here in Kentucky and Indiana? Kentucky and Indiana are like, yay! Every other state in the union probably need that. That's crap. You're just doing whatever you want to do to get elected because you're supporting rich people. Rich corporations, yeah, that's who you're supporting. No one else. You don't care about the rest of Americans. We're so segmented into what is important to us, we don't think of the country on a countrywide scale. What's good for the country, we think about what's good for me, what's good for my family. Everybody else can die in a fire for all I care. We're very focused on us. Maybe that's a bit extreme, but we tend to focus on the us and here and now, not so much on what's good for the country as a whole. So basically, if a politician is doing what helps me directly, they're a great politician. If they're helping you, they're crap. That's the way our system works. In a true democracy, in a true compromise situation, everybody's mad. Because that means we've reached a compromise. Anyway, if you're in a true compromise, no one's really happy. If we're in a true compromise, we both have to give something up to get something that we want, yes? So no one's totally satisfied. If you're totally satisfied the way things are, you're screwing somebody. So this is the situation we find ourselves in. That the government is doing what it's supposed to do, yes? Because now we have all these people in 1909 who can vote, suddenly realize, wait a second, there's a whole lot more workers than there are rich people. If I don't please the workers, I'm getting fired. So the laws get passed. Universal suffrage changes things for the better for the average person. Now think about this. What effects is an 8-hour workday going to have on people? All right, how many hours should you be sleeping? 8. Yeah. Arguably, teenagers need 9. It's kind of the current thought. But not 10 or 12 or 15 or whatever else. Need 8. Okay. So that's 8 hours a day gone. 8 hours working, gone. That's 16 hours. What do you do for the other 8 hours? Now, keep in mind, I'm talking job. I'm not talking to you guys. You guys got to keep working when you go home. Most jobs aren't like that. Most jobs, you're like, hey, it's time to go home. You're home. There's no working home. 8 hours of. This is one of the things you'll realize when you have your first quote unquote real job, get out of college or wherever else you're going to go. You go home and there's no homework. There's no extracurricular activity. It's not like you're on a sports team and maybe you'll join one. I know people who did that, but most Americans don't. They go home and they have 8 hours to fill of whatever. You want to go take a nap? You can do that. You know, that is so much time just doing nothing. We got to find ways of occupying our time. Think about this for just a second. There's a TV show called Naked and Afraid.
I love that show.
All right, the basic premise, we're going to get two people, strip them down their skivvies, and beyond that, put them in their birthday suits. We're going to drop them in the middle of the woods. How bored are we? You know? There's so much stuff like that, and it's hilarious to think about. But this is what comes from this. We need new entertainments. So we'll see, I'll get to the list here, cities start developing new forms of entertainment. We start to see buildings of new theaters. We see zoos and parks and all kinds of things being established. Believe it or not, one of the principal forms of activity in Kentucky about 40 years ago, we'll say, was sitting on your porch. Everybody would eat dinner, go outside, and sit on their porch. You would talk to your neighbors. Your kids would play with the neighbor kids. They read a newspaper, read a book, whatever. Go hang out. Communities existed like this. See, that's one of the things that's kind of funny. Even though the internet, social media has opened our horizons, you can be friends from anywhere around the world. It also has made us more shut in. We don't go and talk to people around our neighborhoods. We don't go like hang out as much. It does happen. It's not as much. I remember one of the big things for us was block parties. Block parties are awesome. Everybody in a neighborhood, it's called block party, right? Block, neighborhood block. Everybody in a neighborhood, if you guys are not familiar with this, just basically pools their resources and has a shindig. Right? People start bringing like fried chicken. They start like bringing sandwiches. There's like, they have these things where they would take garbage cans and fill them with ice and sodas. They weren't used garbage cans, they're gross. But the new ones that like, they have all such things. You don't even pay for anything, just grab whatever you want. Everybody just pitched in. Everybody had a good time with each other. They had like all kinds of games, like foot races, sock races, all kinds of nonsense. They had all kinds of little things. All kinds of music, bands would come out and play. It was just a great time. This is when I was a kid, so this is when the God reading,
We have like neighborhood parties. It's like our street, but we don't have like it's a block party.
Everyone in the street has a block party. That's basically what I'm talking about. It's a tough place to still do this. But this is the whole idea of a community, Which brings me to the concept of mutual aid society. Basically, communities tend to work together. You want to see this in action? Look during a time of crisis. How many of you guys remember what the tornadoes that hit Henryville, Indiana? You guys remember that happened a couple years ago? Yeah, the school was just wiped out. All right, so my wife, her aunt and uncle live there. All right, technically it's in a place outside of it. It's right on, so for all different purposes. Their entire house was picked up and smashed. Like it was picked up on its side and just crushed in the ground. Everything in the house was destroyed. It's meant everything you owned scattered over a field. That's what their experience was. All right, so you got to take all that. It was depressing, sure. They got through. But the thing that was just unbelievable, right? Everybody's helping each other out. And not just from Henryville, by the way. There was one guy there. He actually lived in Cincinnati. He heard about it on the news. He's like, man, those people need help. He got a chainsaw, it was in his garage, put it in the back of his pickup, got in, drove there, and just started helping people out. cutting out like, trees that have fallen down and getting them out of the way and help people pick up stuff. He didn't know anybody there. It wasn't like he had family and everybody. Just like, oh, shoot, these people need help. One helped. People still do this. Inside, we're all part of a community. We don't think about it all the time. We still do this. We're still capable of great acts of kindness and generosity. The Mutual Aid Society was organized whenever we didn't have a lot of the resources necessary to take care of workers who went a bad way. If somebody got sick and couldn't work, the Mutual Aid Society would help them along, pay their bills, make sure their kids had dinner, things like that. When they were back on their feet, they would do the same thing for somebody else. Everybody supported everybody else. This is the basic premises of Social Security in action. It wasn't government's mandate, it was everybody else doing it, but this is the basic idea. It was necessary because at the time, there was no safety net. This is a way of preventing absolute disaster. And it's going to be the premises for a lot of changes that are going to occur. Now, let's talk about the development of cities real quick, because we're about out of time. We talked about what urban renewal is, basically updating cities. We need to take advantage of the fact that we have all these workers here, but there's no place for them. We got to develop the infrastructure. So sewer systems are built. Let's face it, a lot more people means a lot more food. That food's got to go somewhere. One of the greatest architectural achievements in the 19th century was the London sewer system. Think about it. Think about something so basic you never have to look at it. You don't actually want to think about it because it's not polite, but how necessary it is. You know this is what I'm talking about when you need a plunger. Whenever you move out of your parents' house, the first thing you should buy is a plunger. Why? Because you might not need it eventually. You might not need it at first, but you will need it eventually, and when you do, you're going to want it. Trust me on this. But also, sidewalks. Why are sidewalks important? Important? You're Irish for a second. Sorry? Yeah, think about this. If you're walking out in the middle of the street, you get hit by a car. Of course, we didn't have cars for the most part during this time. We did have horse-drawn carriages. And lots of people died, getting run over. Read that happen. Yeah, true story, bro. Sidewalks keep people alive. That's good. What about gas lights? Why do we want gas lights? City streets. What does that do, though? Not just so we can see where we're going. What's another side benefit, do you think? What? Crime goes down. Think about it. Most people who commit crimes do so without being seen. If you suddenly have lights everywhere, it's a lot harder to be not seen. Skyscrapers. Skyscrapers are all about building homes. But instead of building outwards and having the problem of urban sprawl, we build up. We take advantage of what we can't build on. Iron makes this possible. Steel makes this possible because it flexes. It's strong, but also flexible. So we can build higher, and they can deal with the winds and the other forces that are going on up there. Entertainment. Like we were saying, there's a lot of new entertainment forms that come out during this era. In fact, we're almost to the point of having movies. Movies are going to come out in the early 20th century, and they're going to be horribly popular, like unbelievably so. How often do you guys say you go see a movie? How frequently do you guys see movies? Once a month, maybe, okay? Once a year. I know how that is. These guys are going every week, maybe multiple times, possibly every day. Now, so the thing is, there were so many movies produced, people were constantly hungry for them. Now, these aren't movies like we're thinking today. They're not like blockbusters like 4 hours. They're like half an hour, something like that. Usually, you have two movies the price of one. Also, they're cheaper. I believe it was about 5 cents to go see a movie when it first came out, the first round. To put that in perspective, if we take into account inflation, you should be paying $5 for 2 movies. That would be about the same price.
It's been like $30 to see a movie. Like,
yeah, that's what I forgot to mention. That also included the 2 movies with a cartoon in the middle, plus a drink for 2 people, and popcorn for 2 people. Yeah. There were a lot. If they were $5, you'd be like, why not go? I'm saying there'd be a lot more people going, but prices have gone up and up and up and up and up.
Why?
Supply demand, essentially. It's always the answer, isn't it? But this is the experience, guys, of a lot of people as they first move into cities. Shh, let me finish up. Get to this point, and then you'll be free. So this one right here, got a lot of folks basically sitting here in an alleyway, yes? This is what people had to live on. There was no homes. They were homeless. They had to build whatever shelter they could from what they could find. Maybe get taken in by a church or a family. You have tons of families crowded in small places, which, by the way, is just like this experience. Many peoples in the developing world aren't big. Where is this from? I don't know. It could be Africa. It could be Southeast Asia. It could be Latin America. I don't know. What we see happen time and time again, developing nation, which we were. At one point, the United States was a developing nation. What we see happening is at first, it's very, very hard. There's sort of these growing pains. Not enough jobs, too many people wanting jobs, low pay, bad or no housing, poor medical care, all kinds of problems. But once an economy fully industrializes, and gets past that point, we start to see the standard of living going up for people. But it takes time. If you look at many countries around the world that are industrializing, they've only been going through this process for maybe 10, 20 years. Britain went through it for 100. In fact, Japan, which went through the process in about 30, 40 years, was kind of unique in that most countries can't do that. They had some pretty distinct advantages, though, for that, which we'll get to later when we get to the Meiji Restoration. But suffice it to say, that's not normal. Most countries take time to develop. And so what we're seeing is that there's the same process going on in multiple other countries. Yeah. But it's an interesting process to see if it's that. Any questions? Okay, let me finish up one last thing, and then I'll turn you loose. So you guys know this Friday is the last day for turning in your scores for full steam ahead. My plan is starting tomorrow, I'm going to go over 2 of the challenges with you per day. Not really to show you my designs, not anything quite like that, but I will kind of give you the basic idea. Like this is what you want to look for in a design, things like that. And I'll do 2 a day so you guys can have a little bit more ahead step on that. But come Friday, once the school day is over, 8th period's done, whatever scores on there, I'm recording down. So if you're holding on to scores, basically make sure they get in time. Because once that day is done, scores are set. Fair enough? All right. Peace.